Hello, welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. We're doing Demons and Angels profile at the moment. I'm sorry if you can hear a slight whirring sound in the background. One of the fans in the rooms is on, so if that interrupts things, I do apologise. But we're going to be talking about a demon today, and it's going to be another one of the sins, and it's the one of avarice, which is Mammon. So, as always, I will start with a quote from one of the stories therein, or mentioned. Then I will give you the background information I have, and then I will give you my character profile for them. So I hope you find this interesting. Their labours filled Mammon's hall, and ever the fallen angel to have once filled men's hearts with dreams of greatness achieved for their toiling, now hungrily increased their hoard, and their castle made of every precious object, crushed into a brick and rendered mute within the multitude. Rubies glimmered between platinum and sapphire, the geode of a castle glimmering under the gloomy haze of the hell-fire, as the arch-fiend and his companion stepped firmly upon the golden path in regal attire, and marched towards the seat of their friend and servant, welcomed by eager servants in the shapes of all wild exotic beasts, into the burgeoning hall of food, music, and sheer access to be held as Mammon's dining hall, as the demon rose from the end of the hall. Quote from Ambitious Aim. It's one of those kinds of quotes that tells you I was reading Milton and listening to Shakespeare too whilst working on the Bowl story. On this occasion we shall meet the demon of excess, of wealth, of avarice, linked to the greediest kings, queens, and tyrants of the world. The demon associated with avarice or greed, the selfish being that even as an angel was more intrigued by heaven's pavement than by the duties placed upon them. Mammon is a word and name linked to greed, and we're going to talk about it. To begin with, Mammon is a term, not a name as such, within the New Testament of the Bible that talks of wealth, money, the greed for money, or material possessions, or even someone that offers these things. It's thought to be a Hebrew term, but the etymology around Mammon is quite varied, with many of the similar words or words linked to it meaning wealth as the modern Hebrew does. However, it is most often associated with the Book of Luke and Matthew, both stating that Jesus said you cannot serve both God and Mammon. The rough English translation that is thought to have led to the Middle Ages understanding of Mammon as being personified as one of the seven princes or seven sins in hell. Now, the term aside, we're discussing the usual situation in demonology, where terminology that could be affixed to a being and linked perhaps to some other deity could be described interpreted as demonic, like Belial. One the words where Mammon is thought to have links to wealth, of course, is in one spelling that in Syrian actually refers to a Syrian deity of wealth. This would suit a lot of the manners of demonology for these seven princes. Any mention of foreign deities known to tribes that letters were written to or battled against in the Old Testament is the general theme, but with regard to Mammon, they've been linked to Beelzebub and not a particular deity. However, Mammon's personification is literally from the term. After all, it's a pretty neat quote that, when described as Mammon rather than the later translated wealth or money, it seems to be a name, and thus Mammon is Mammon. But as always, interpretation always tends to come with a lot of influence in the Middle Ages to old school gods, and certainly Mammon shares a lot in common with the Greek god Plutus, a god of wealth fathered by Demeter. In fact, the seeming link to a Syrian idol that you may find in older sources has never been clarified, and constantly there is the thought that Plutus is the likely inspiration for the Middle Ages descriptions. Plutus you might know from the terminology plutocracy, as, like Mammon, it's another word linked to wealth or the wealthy. In fact, Dante's Divine Comedy makes this link and describes Plutus as a wolf-like demon of wealth. Wolves, you'll find, tend to be representative of greed, and certainly in later centuries are linked to the corrupted officials. Thomas Aquinas metaphorically describes Mammon as a being carried around hell on the back of a wolf, and certainly it is a description that features in some books on demonology. In the Dictionary Infernal, Mammon is described as hell's ambassador to England, and though my own thoughts on where the demon Mammon comes from are just because it sounded like a specific name to a bad guy, many scholars believe that Mammon was the name of the demon. Now, I mentioned Dante there, but as you might expect, one of Mammon's most prominent roles in literature is within Milton's Paradise Lost. Mammon is described as a demon who is as demon with no care to his duty in heaven, but rather a deep admiration for the golden paving. He is described as one of the chief architects of their citadel of pandemonium, and encourages them all to make their lot in hell, and in fact tries to advocate for peace, and is not essentially as devoted to Lucifer as they were once because of their fall. However, at the same time, Mammon's speech is used to give greater context to the reason behind the fall, to an idea that God had been an unpleasant master and forced things of them. It's Mammon's speech that actually helps contextualize the situation and Lucifer's role as the anti-hero in the story. Even if they're not willing to face the heavenly host again and work as an opposite note to Belial's encouragement for war in Lucifer's glory. I would admit, though Book 1 has the most memorable quotes and shows Satan as the protagonist, and certainly is phenomenal to take in on its own, Book 2, with the debate in hell, is a great introduction to the individual demons, but also to laying out the path for Lucifer and for hell. Mammon's speech often gets a lot of interesting essays written about it these days, and certainly Mammon is given a very different role to how they are generally in popular culture. In popular culture, Mammon is the antagonist in the film Constantine, wherein he is the son of Lucifer born before the fall and seeking power. Of course, lots of series, video games, and whatnot do depict Mammon as the demon of greed, but certainly, as you can read from my quote at the top, and if you read Belphegor's, I'm very much inspired by Milton, and here's my profile for Mammon below. Name, Mammon. Position, fallen angel, sin of avarice or greed. Story featured in various, particularly ambitious aim. Role in ambitious aim, they are the protective parental figure of Baal. Gender fluid, often preferring female above male. Description, though commonly letting themselves be seen as a beautiful young male carrying a full cornucopia and riding the back of a beautiful mount. When they reveal themselves, they turn into an impish being clutching the rotten horn to their chest and sitting upon the back of a slavering wolf. However, they alternatively appear in the form of a beautiful woman draped in the richest ornaments, depending on where they have been summoned to, rivaling beauties in history, and where their feet fall, the ground turns to gold, but when touched, they turn into a giant wolf with a mouth that is drooling molten gold that turns to boiling lead. Realm, Hell. Abilities, the ability to encourage dreams of great success, to guide to these wonderful ideas, but then to pull people into partnerships, deals, and disaster, and into pure avarice, the purity of the dream and its meaning lost by the desire for more. Master Lucifer, although still fears the Almighty. Personality, all Mammon wants is everything, anything, and everything. Whatever has value on the earth above, Mammon is the collector of collectors, the hoarder of hoarders, but the most elite and arrogant in all things. Whenever they feel they're lacking something, they're desperate for it to the point they will harm themselves for it. They cannot allow themselves to be in want of anything, and that can include material things beings might not even think about, like a successful heir to be them upon earth. They love everything they own because it is theirs, keep it pristine unless it's something so rare and desired, they dirty it for the simple fact they can. Mammon will do anything for money, anything for things. They frustrate everyone around them because their loyalty is only to pleasure, excess, and money. However, they are deeply fearful of the Almighty and of Lucifer, who regularly destroys their possessions when Mammon is not doing their job. Mammon is ruled by their fear, but they do have love for Lucifer, as Lucifer is something that cannot be owned. They love Belphegor because they are always praised by them, and they love Baal because they are their most perfect puppet. Once Mammon did want peace, did want to have comfort and happiness without being fearful of retribution, but this was lost when Lucifer made it obvious that it was only us or them. Relations. Belphegor. Mammon and Belphegor were not only cloud brothers, but they were the only ones that understood one another and their desire not to do as they were told. They longed to do what they wanted to do, and when they achieved it with Lucifer, they achieved it together. Mammon protects and looks after Belphegor, treating them like a pet to overfeed and overindulge. Lucifer. Mammon's desire to do what they want fit into Lucifer's own ideas, and Mammon was quickly won over by Lucifer's charm and ability and their sheer defiance. Lucifer wanted one thing, just one thing, and it was enough for Mammon to agree they would assist Lucifer in doing so. However, in hell, Mammon starts to feel like Lucifer's desires for revenge is unnecessary, and the pair clash only for Lucifer to make it obvious that Mammon only has what he has, thanks to them. Mammon is afraid of Lucifer, but lusts after them too because Lucifer was the brightest angel that heaven could not possess, and Mammon wishes they could own them. Beelzebub, one of Mammon's friends, who sits beside them in their power over greed, but Mammon is rather more flirtatious with Beelzebub than would be expected, if only because Belphegor adores Beelzebub so. Mammon loves to possess what others cannot. Baal, one of Belphegor's many spawn, when he was born, Mammon had a thought about how they had not owned an heir to garner them more praise and show that theirs could garner as much wealth too. But when Baal showed interest in the earth, Mammon twisted their own mind to teach Baal the desire to live in peace on earth where no demons were permitted to be, but also the desire to be stronger and more powerful and greater than any of them, so Mammon would always be held in great regard. Mammon loves Baal, but loves what they become more than that. Leviathan, Mammon's dearest friend, the sin of envy and the sin of avarice, are very fond of one another and pleasant in each other's company, because what they have and what they lack stirs the other. They aid each other in their developments and their powers by envying and hoarding the other's things, and weirdly, although they may seem competitive, to them it is all in fun. Satan now. Mammon has a slight obsession over the angel that is permitted to visit hell, if only because they are a seeming sin themselves, but are not exiled from heaven. Mammon wishes to have them and their friendship because Lucifer has forbidden others from being near them, and Mammon always wants to own what others cannot. Right, history. Created to bring dreams to the world, along with Belphegor, the pair were part of the same. One to create the idea in the dream, and the other to stoke the fire of the dream with visions of its need and success. Mammon felt the most pressure for being encouraged not to keep making animals want more. They were encouraged their work on the magpie was not useful, and their need for birds to only want the prettiest of mates frustrated some of their fellows. Mammon wanted to do their own thing, wanted to enjoy the great riches of nature that they were not permitted to, and upon the creation of Eden, Mammon was filled with great distress that someone who had not worked hard for his gift would be given it. When Beelzebub approached them to listen to Lucifer, Mammon dragged Belphegor with them, and they were enamoured with the thought that in Lucifer's heaven Mammon could walk the golden paving and make it follow after their heels, that they might be given Eden to possess and to enjoy as the Almighty's rude new creation would. They joined the battle with Lucifer, and though defeated, Mammon lost their beautiful wings and would mourn them forever. But upon being brought to be thrown, Mammon joined Belphegor in jumping for the pure fact that with Lucifer there was freedom. In hell, Mammon rallied around Lucifer and encouraged the demons to create their paradise in hell, and certainly was the one to encourage the building of Pandemonium and to build up the great circles, as well as the palaces of the princes and the lords of hell. Mammon made it beautiful and radiant, and then Lucifer determined they would not abandon earth as for heaven alone, and though Mammon was too afraid to want Eden again, creating a faux Eden that lacked its glory, but was close enough to give them joy, Lucifer reminded them that it was not Eden. Mammon and Lucifer argued that hell would be their kingdom, and they should not strive for what they could not have. But enraged, Lucifer burnt the faux Eden, and reminded Mammon that this was what the Almighty did with great ease, taking everything from them. Mammon could not argue with it, and though fearing the Almighty, they snuck to Asmodee, who would be working under Lucifer's instruction, and was to enter Eden. If they would collect a piece of everything living in Eden, and when Asmodee did and slithered back to them, Mammon used the pieces to remake their own Eden, but nothing seemed to come out as beautiful as there, and it was twisted and diseased, proving Lucifer's point. But always Mammon sought to go to earth at least and enjoy it. So they began to send out dreams to men to seek and hold material and hoard for their own pleasures alone. Then one day Belphegor plopped something out that was made of the fire of the sun. This was Baal, and though Mammon had raised all Belphegor's spawn to adore them and attend to them, Baal was different. Mammon made Baal a prince, a king with Mammon's kingdom, and within Mammon's kingdom. And when Baal had with him a young army of demons eager to abandon the hideous world of their parents, Mammon told them the secret route that Asmodee had used to get to the gates of paradise. But to escape they would have to rebel against Lucifer. Mammon gave them weapons in secret and joined Lucifer in the battle against them, but when Baal escaped and began to cause joy and chaos upon the earth, Mammon was revelling in it until they met Lucifer sitting on their throne and melting it as they sat there, smirking and telling Mammon very happily, "You know Baal's been a real treat." It's nice to show them that I wasn't the worst thing. But there will be a punishment. Bull will be gone, and with him any mention of your name as anything but reference to your sin. You'll just be a word floating around. No one will honour you or revile you. With that, Lucifer had made a firm prophecy, and it would come true. Final comments. I like writing Mammon and having fun with them being all subservient towards Lucifer and then thinking they're being very clever and can cheat him. But yes, you may have noticed I've started work on the ball story I've been thinking about finally. Anyway, next time we'll be talking about the Archangel Ariel, so I thought that will interest you. Thank you for listening.